Hi everybody, this is Marcel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to discuss some of the things I've noticed about society in the disposability of men, a bit of a lighter subject than what I normally talk about. I'll cover some topics that I've recently seen in videos and that can be tracked back through history as to what we would define, or some people would define, as a valiant or a noble male. Then I'll tie that into social conditioning and relate it to how we live our everyday lives. Should be interesting, right? Spoiler warning if you're interested in watching the 2017 Mummy remake, Wonder Woman, or some older movies like Will Smith, I, Robot. So why do movies matter? Why is this even worthy of making a video on, or a part of one? A lot can be said about a society based upon what they find as entertainment, what they enjoy to watch in their leisure. Think to yourself when you're in a sad or depressed mood, or a happy and energetic mood, what kind of music do you listen to? What kind of movies do you watch? How do you incorporate your entertainment with that current mood? And how do you use your entertainment to tailor that mood should you want to change it? Music, art, and movies, which I see as a form of art, have the ability to reach out to us, sometimes even invoke deep thoughts from within ourselves that we didn't know were there. It's really not that surprising when you think about it, considering that most movies are designed to elicit an emotional response. A lot of the things that I watched on a TV growing up helped to tailor the person that I am today, to include music to a lesser degree. Role models in this very synthetic modern time can often be boiled down to someone's favorite superhero. Sure, when you ask a kid what they want to be when they grow up, you'll get the typical answers, president, astronaut, fireman. But when you ask them who they want to be like when they grow up, you get an entirely different set of answers. People nowadays are deprived of proper role models, especially in a generation where the concept of being male has been stripped away and vilified. I'll tell you a secret about some of the older movies, the really older ones, is that the actors and actresses were not powerful, confident, or attractive because they were that way in real life. They were that because the movie said they were. The women that played the roles some of them were actually unattractive, but because the movie required them to seem attractive, the actors would say that they were, and that is what everyone went along with. It's presentation, it's acting. Now maybe that's obvious to some people, but to a younger version of me, I believed what I was seeing. Okay, maybe not all of it, but to a degree, at least in personality, I did. Nowadays, the world is small enough, so to speak, that they can pull in, talented and attractive people to play the roles, so they're getting the best of both. The fundamental concepts underneath, though, are the same. We don't actually think that the real-life actors and actresses are as powerful as they're portrayed on TV. That's simply the perception that the movie or show or anything wants us to have. Here come those spoilers. When I watched Wonder Woman, I saw a movie, and don't get me wrong, it was a good movie. I didn't mind it at all. But what I saw was a woman struggling with her emotions, trying to decide between what she wanted versus what she thought was right for the world, and basically striving for vengeance. Then her male protagonist boyfriend, who stayed focused and driven on the end goal the entire time, despite her constantly getting in the way and distracting him. And that was even pointed out by the villain. She's like, oh, I see what you're really paying attention to. The thing is, the guy didn't even need her. He was going to succeed regardless of her presence, and granted, the god may not have died at the end, but the world would have lived another day. A lot of that movie was just her not listening to those around her and getting rewarded for it. But where would she be if he had not blown up that plane? If he had not sacrificed himself at the end? She never would have gotten that big emotional power boost that gave her the strength to finally vanquish her foe. You know, I'm waiting for the time in video games and stuff with the female characters where they'll have like these beta male orbiters, you know, these blue pill guys around them, and whenever she needs a power boost, it'll just like one of them will blow up and she'll be like turbocharged, and she can finally defeat everyone she needs to. You know, I half expected him to survive that movie, like come crawling out of the water or something, but they didn't. They offed him. So the moral here is the male superhero kills himself and emotionally inspires the female to finally take a stand and win the fight. Opposite end of the spectrum here, you had a movie that did very poorly, which is the new Mummy remake. Ultimately, it's Tom Cruise getting yanked around by a couple of women, and in the end has to choose between a blonde and a brunette. Tough one. My thoughts on that movie is basically you've got two women, both of whom are taking advantage of an older man. One of them wants to use him to further her career and basically appease her boss, and the other wants to make him into a god and probably take over the world, with him at her side. The reason why this movie didn't do well from what I can see is that the entire time it's hard to pin down the actual villain. The supposedly evil resurrected mummy comes up with some really good points, like, nah, you don't understand, times were different then. Sure, I murdered people, but that's how it worked. Furthermore, the person that she was supposedly attacking to turn into a god initially was her lover. They had planned it together. Then for some reason, at the end of this movie, he decides to sacrifice himself for his female partner, if you want to call her that. So essentially it got the Hollywood ending, but why? Why would he do that? She was using him worse so and offering nothing in return for it. He would have been better off taking the powers and walking away from both of them. Or at the least telling his new mummy girlfriend to stop screwing around with his ex and just move on. They could go rule the world together. No, that wouldn't work though, would it? That's not how it's supposed to happen. His passion towards his partner was unjustified, and people saw through that. It was essentially a canned ending. Then you go back to some of the movies that I grew up around. If you don't mind an older one, does anybody remember Will Smith, I, Robot? Perfect example of how blue pill cuckery can almost destroy the world. So there he is. You know, he thinks that robots are all cold and calculating and would rather save someone with an 80% chance of survival than a woman or a girl with a 10% chance of survival. It breaks it down to math and makes the hard decision to save the person with the greatest chance. But no, they must be chivalrous, forgiving the term, and save the girl. Save the girl, Sonny. That was the big theme of the end of that movie. But who really cares if the entire world is overran by evil robots afterwards? At least he can feel like a real man for saving the girl. I've made my point. How many movies does the guy sacrifice or even go to the lengths of killing himself to save a woman, and that is supposed to be inspirational? The epitome of what it is to be a man. And then you think of our children watching this, specifically our male children, getting all pumped up over some male role model, like, I want to be just like him, right as the guy leaps off a cliff or gets his head blown off or something horrible happens, all so that he can save a woman. And you can't really say that kids don't watch shows like that. There are some PG-rated cartoons that have that kind of theme in them. They're just less graphic about it. You know, there's only one movie that I can think of that had the opposite happen, and the anti-hero even pointed out that it was screwed up that it ended up that way, so he wouldn't even accept it, and that's in Pitch Black. The female protagonist accidentally saves Vin Diesel by standing in the way of an attacking alien. No energy boost for him. Actually, it almost seemed more like guilt and shame to get him to help the other survivors. So the point in all of this is that parents nowadays have their children in front of televisions way too much. They become kind of a dumping zone for their kids. I've seen it hundreds of times. Not to say that everyone does, but it's way more common than it should be. Kids pick up what they see, and they regurgitate it through their daily lives. They get programmed with those television shows. Anybody doesn't believe the effect, play Dora the Explorer for a month or two and watch how long it takes for the kids to start speaking Spanish. Now, I'm not saying that we should stop enjoying movies, and I'm certainly not saying that kids can't watch shows that have male protagonists that sacrifice themselves or something. It's a topic that we should be aware of. Entertainment needs to get back into balance, because in the end, if they have nothing else to turn to as far as a role model goes, then if we don't already, we're going to have a bunch of males that think it's their only purpose to throw themselves on the altar, and a bunch of women that think that they should have everything handed to them and the only purpose of men is a resource. Oh, wait. We already do, don't we? Alright, I'm done. If you guys want a really good movie, kind of a gritty murder mystery type, it's called Brick, 2005 American neo-noir mystery film. It's directed by Ryan Johnson. Good movie. Not an ad or anything, I just liked it. Well, I appreciate you hearing me out. If you have any thoughts, put them down below. I'll respond. And if you want to hear more content like mine, like and subscribe.